Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's obviously morning for me in my office. Well, I guess it could be nighttime, but it's not, it's morning. Happy Tuesday. I think I added an extra 2 there. I guess I could turn this light on, it's not so bad. How are we doing? This has been such a wonderful and wacky and interesting month so far for so many people, myself included. I was just kind of talking about this with some friends the other day that it felt like we were in kind of a little bit of a holding pattern. You guys, so I'm just going to give a quick energy update and then I'm going to go into flow. I might do 2 videos today. It's one of those days. It was difficulty sleeping last night. Definitely a lot of activity. So I've been calling it the push. I think I did a video not long ago called the wedge. And I think that's still applicable. If you guys feel called to check that out. But right now what I've been feeling is this push, and I described it in another video as being caught in a rip current. Your toes are on the sand. If you've ever been in the ocean during a rip current, but you can't quite keep them there, you just get kind of not so much dragged, but pushed in a different direction than you originally were. And that's kind of the energy signature of right now. And that'll probably shift as of today, being that it's a portal day. And what I was shown was it was happening for a reason, so that we could get pushed into a particular energy frequency, pushed out of one thought pattern, pushed out of one habit, and moved slightly into a different course, almost as if it's lining you up for something unexpected, if that makes sense. I was explaining to someone, a client the other day, about the higher self and the oversoul and these different versions of us, and I realized that sometimes that can be a little confusing, but ultimately we have a higher blueprint. We have another version of us that isn't necessarily fully embodied in this particular skin suit, even though we still have access to that higher potential. For some of us it is, and for some of us they aren't. My point is, this, especially the last few days, from what I'm seeing energetically, has all to do with trust. Trusting that you are being pushed in the right direction and not pushing back against this force. Now I want to rephrase that, because some people are being called to push back against a particular force, and you guys may know what I'm referring to as far as a narrative, but that's not what I'm referring to in this video. I'm referring more in this video about friendships, about certain moments of realization about us, about feeling the need to communicate, but feeling pushed not to, if that makes sense, about something. And it was kind of like, so I pulled my animal cards the other day. I use a spirit card animal deck. You guys, I still use those kinds of tools, by the way, which I want to just say are valuable tools to play with, because some days we just need a little magic in our lives, and it's harder to see the magic if we're not using certain tools to remind us of where the magic can be found, if that makes sense. So I've always used animal cards and power totem cards, and some people use tarot cards, in order to gain a broader perspective on maybe certain things I wasn't seeing. And the cards I pulled were Challenge Beaver, which is action. Beavers are builders, building something, taking action. The suggestion to help with that was the opposite, which is retreat. Owl, inner wisdom, higher knowing. mystery, right? But mostly retreat, go within. And the outcome was peace, dove. And I saw this as a collective reading as well, because there is this feeling in the collective of wanting to take action, of wanting to move forward, of wanting to build something, and fill in the blank of whatever that is, if whether it be social, economic, personal, business, relationship. And that felt a little bit this week as if it was maybe a struggle for some people, and it may have been that way for quite some time for others. And what I was shown was, usually that card would mean it's time to take action. But the message I got from my guides was, we're taking action in non-action right now. Going within is the answer, is the way to take action. And I've said this before, but it's worth kind of talking about. We have this idea that sometimes taking action means using our voice, getting out there and doing, building something. But we have to remember that we must go within, into the heart, and into this deeper knowing and inner wisdom sometimes before we can take that action. And in doing that, that is taking action. And let me go a little deeper on that. It's taking right action. Sometimes we do things and take action before communicating with our higher self, before communicating with our heart, before feeling into something. And that is not necessarily centered action. And so then we look back after we've taken that action and go, uh-oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe that was incorrect. And so it gives us the opportunity to hold the space a little bit longer in order to then move forward from that space. And anytime we do something, we are taking action. When we are going within and meditating or praying, that is a form of action in non-action in a traditional sense. We're still moving into something. We're being still by not moving outwardly, externally. We're going and moving internally. So that was the message that had come through very strong for me and for the collective. Now today, and moving into the end of the week, because every day is different for all of us, this could change. We may be guided to take action, but hopefully we've taken this period of time in order to go within. And if we're feeling like we want to do something, but we feel kind of pushed right now to maybe do something different temporarily, my guidance team was like, follow that. Because I did a video a couple days ago, point A to point B, point A, somebody wrote AC/DC, which I loved that. But it was, we're not linear anymore with our movement patterns. So A, B, C, D, E, where we would have gone in those exact order to get to things, now we might go from A to D, back to C, back to B. So sometimes we're pushed in a different direction so that we can look back on that previous goal or previous placement, perspective, and we are then more advanced after looking back at that previous perspective than we would have been if we didn't go through it. But on the flip side, sometimes we don't have to go through it. We can skip it and then come back to it later and actually experience it from a higher perspective, if that makes sense. So some people have to go through B to get to C from A. It's just the way that it is. A lot of us have. Others don't need to. And sometimes by us trusting that we're being pushed in the right direction from ourselves, we can then skip B, and we may not ever need to go back to B. That one person that we needed to talk to in order to get somewhere is no longer necessary in order to have that experience. We have the experience from something else that maybe became available to us because of the timing. And that was another word that came through: timing, timing, timing. So this is happening for a lot of us. We're having the opportunity to shift much quicker than we used to because of the timing, because of the way we play with time, because of the way we are interacting and exchanging information at a more relevant consistency. So these are the words that are just coming through while I'm in flow. So the challenge can be, for some people, I can hear somebody asking, well, how do I know if I need to skip B? Or, well, I thought you said that in order to get to C, sometimes you have to experience B to get the fuller perspective so you can see things from a broader perspective. And that is true. But what I'm sharing is that there's so much information coming in. There's so much data, so much frequency, so many memories are coming online that sometimes, whereas before we would have had to have had that experience with the particular person, place, or thing to activate the memory that we needed to activate within us to know that we had, let's say, the self-confidence in order to then tackle C. Right? Well, now we're just thrown into C. I'm using A, B, and C as a reference here. We're thrown from A into C, and we're just trusting that we do have the confidence, and we're just allowing ourselves to be more present and aware. And then we don't have to necessarily go through B, because all of a sudden it clicks into place for some of us in some circumstances, if that makes sense. So both are applicable. Neither is wrong and neither is right, but recognizing when one is applicable in our field and when one isn't is part of self-mastery. It's part of us really honing in on our skill set. It's part of us recognizing certain attributes that are available to us now that may not have been available to us a month ago, 2 months ago, a year ago, whatever it might be. So that's one of the biggest messages that's been coming through for me. What else? I know so many people through sessions and just some of my great friendships that I'm so blessed to have. Also family, that so much has happened in the past in the past 2 weeks especially, but let's just say the last year. And it's some are finding themselves in a little bit of a tailspin, not chasing their own tails, but getting like smacked by their own tails. That makes sense. Not going in circles, but all of a sudden they've stopped and that tail comes around and whacks them right in the face. And they're like, whoa, where did that come from? Was that me? Well, how did that happen? And so we're still processing, integrating, and it can be a lot. So again, as always, I always talk about being in the heart, patience with oneself. We can feel that anxiety of wanting to push towards something. Oh, I'm being guided to talk about the push. Once again, it felt as if we were being pushed into something. I had to let go of all of my resistance. And that was almost to near impossible whenever I wasn't in a place of heart-centered presence and awareness. But that's okay, because when I wasn't in that place, not to say that I wasn't in a place of understanding and love, I had many different perspectives about how and where I was being pushed, why I was being pushed. I could see the perspectives of everyone pushing me. And I could also see the perspective of where this might go. But there was still a slight resistance from the human of me going, but wait a minute, what about this and what about that? But I wanted to do this still, and I didn't have enough time to finish that, and all of those little things came up. So I could look at that as a blessing, because I was able to see those little things coming up. And ideally, we want to work towards being that observer where we could just observe that play going on in our field and our thoughts. I could sit and look at the human me, or the little child, wounded child, going, hey, wait a minute, that's not right. This isn't happening the way that I feel that it should. That's not necessarily the best timing for me, and this isn't right for this and that and the other thing. But in actuality, there was a bigger plan at play, and I could see it, I could feel it. And so the little wounded child in me, not the inner child that's just plays with everything and says okay, says yes, the wounded one was like, oh, well, I feel sad because of this. But those were all important emotions to experience as well, and I value that entire experience that I shifted through in a matter of about 48 hours. Usually I shift through it a lot faster, and it didn't take a full 48 hours to shift through it. I'm just giving that as an example. So fill in the blanks. Where have you felt a little, where have you been in your life where you may feel that somebody wronged you, or you didn't feel like you were understood, or you feel like it really wasn't that big of a deal, but the person could have handled it different. Your spouse, your partner, a coworker, a family member. And here this, now fast forward, they're being given something that you feel maybe isn't fair because they didn't process what you had to process. And I'm using all of these as different tools and different examples of how it can work for us sometimes. So from a higher perspective, staying in that space of just observing, right? Observing the reaction, the interplay, observing the conversations with yourself, observing how the conversations that you have from inner to outer are creating a reaction in other people, right? And seeing into that, feeling into that. So there's so many different ways that we could look at this. And so I had to go through a little bit more of a quick linear ABC to jump to F, basically, in order to experience certain things. But then as soon as I recognized what was going on, I was hurdled over some other obstacles that maybe would not have taken, that would have taken a lot longer to move through had I have not recognized I was being pushed into something bigger. So part of that self-mastery is recognition, acknowledgement. And this is the steps I use personally. Acknowledge something's going on, acknowledge this is happening, recognize what's going in not only around us but outside of our bodies that we're responding to, and then interpret it, move through it, integrate it, and create from that space, right? Those are the steps that I always share with others to utilize. So the portal, I'm just going to end on this note. Whenever we're going through a portal, and there's some people, numbers are, from the web that I look at when I'm doing a reading, an energy reading, or when I'm doing healing work around somebody's field, I see everything existing within a beautiful matrix, not like the movie with binary code, although I'm sure some people see that. I see it as this living, breathing, communicating plasma field of a spider web with different geometries, colors, different sounds, frequencies, variations of density, all wrapped into our field. And it's fascinating. And this is still changing for me all of the time. I see different things at different times. But it does involve math and time. I call them time signatures. It's like when you sign something with your letters in your name, you're putting a time stamp on it of when you signed it. The frequency behind your signature, which essentially is a stamp, your own personal stamp, like when you get something certified for your own signature. And so dates to me are similar to that. It's almost like this is a time stamp that holds a certain frequency behind the letters that are a code, just like the letters in our name, to represent who we are from one perspective. Not, of course, who we are, but from one perspective, it is a piece of us. So it assists us in utilizing that frequency and signature time stamp, if we want to refer to time, since we are in a reality that exists with time. And it allows us to hone in on useful frequencies behind it. It also sets us up, if you think of that spider web and everything being held within it, and you think of our planet being held or encapsulated within this net, not a negative one, just energy and frequency and colors, and think of a rainbow aurora that looks a little bit like a spider web. So that, if you think of that, and attaches like fascia all around the planets, when certain planets move into a conjunction with each other or line up in a particular geometric pattern, we can then hone in a little bit more with a stronger capacity. That's a play on words. Capacity for interaction with that planet, with all of the energies that that planet offers, and with the pathways in between that planetary alignment, as well as our own memory codex. So it offers a codex of living light frequencies, patterns that are encapsulated kind of within, and I'm seeing caps, like when you put the caps on, it's like all caps, hello, 22222. And it gives us the opportunity, the ability to tune in, pour through, become liquefied, pour through that portal. And I always think of an octopus, like how, you know how octopus can fit through these teeny tiny little spaces. Well, just imagine us like this beautiful octopus pouring through this frequency and then spilling out into it with a more higher capacity and fullness for understanding, for activation, for communication with these offered frequency patterns. And this is just all kind of a play on words to kind of play with that. So that's one version of how I see portals working, times, certain timestamp signatures activating within us. And we might also be able to tune in from another perspective. When did this last portal line up? Because our DNA, the Akashic records, all of that is connected. And we then harmoniously tune into these memory frequencies that are held within our own neural network. So it is physical. It is esoteric. It is scientific. It is astrological. It is utilizing, and of course, how are we, the moon, if I look at the moon, this morning the moon was exactly half. I loved that. I thought, oh, yin, yang, yin and yang, right? Yin and yang, it's half. We're right in the center of black and white. And that's a beautiful place to be, because we can then observe, which goes back to what I was speaking to earlier. We can then observe these frequencies within our own bodies. We can see shadow, we can see the light, and we can play with both. So using my example, my shadow may have been wounded inner child from one perspective. A feeling of being right and not being recognized for it, okay? But that doesn't mean that that's what I have to identify with anymore. Nor does it mean I have to stay attached to that particular process, habit, thought, etc. Belief about me, belief about the situation. And so it can be very empowering during these times to utilize these portals as a way to see more clearly what was unseen before. Because if you're only all in the light and it's only sunshine, you don't see the night. You don't see the stars. You don't see those things that the night brings. And if it's only night, obviously you don't see the light. So I'm seeing the timing. Also Tuesday, when was this last conjunction happening, or whatever we want to call it? I'm not an astrological person who really follows astrology, but I feel it in my bones, right? As a conductor of energy, so where's the moon? All of it is connected. There is nothing in this fascia web network of living, breathing source, the spirit that moves in all things, that isn't connected. Just like in our bodies, if we have a thought, I can think wiggle my toe. I don't even have to think wiggle my toe. Automatically I can feel my toe, even though it's all the way at the bottom of my body. So we are inside of a bigger body, if you think about it that way. Our galaxy is inside of a bigger body. We are inside of a big, Earth is inside of a big, everything is within nesting dolls. And so how we interact with it becomes more important from one perspective. So we're being invited to, and I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to say, we're being invited to stay out of the old, recognize these patterns, and immediately, if not just for today, like they say in Reiki, right? Just for today, allow me to be in that higher space of love light. Show me what's out of alignment. Show me whatever it is I need to see, feel, hear, know, and understand with love, to integrate, to be aware of, to appreciate. And as I feel, see, hear, know, and understand these things, I move into this space with clarity. I connect fully to the highest aspect that is me. I connect fully through my heart center. I am anchored and grounded into Mother Earth. And through Mother Earth, I connect to the sun. I connect to the planetary alignments, bringing me into alignment with this portal of energy that I am, as I move through this in all ways with clarity, love, bliss, understanding, joy, appreciation, peace, wisdom, compassion, creativity, grace, abundance, health, and well-being. And I send gratitude back to all things, all beings that are sharing this space with me. And so it is. So that's just a little affirmation maybe you can write down and say it out loud on your own. Whew. All right, guys. I am hoping that somebody out there found that helpful. So much more to share. I do what I'm able to with the time that I have. And I'm just so grateful for these moments, this moment. I'm grateful for Mother Earth. I'm grateful for all of it. And I know you guys are too. So have fun on this portal day. Also get outside if you can. Connect with the plant, connect with animals, connect with dirt, green leaves, even branches that we know the tree might have lost all of its leaves, but it's still alive underneath. Put your hand on it. Put your heart, hand on heart, hand on tree, another human being who needs it, and just be in a space of love and pure intention of compassion, and see where it takes you. In love and light. Namaste.